Welcome to the Rig Doctor podcast, where I'm giving out remedies to soothe your ailing tone and fix your sick pedal boards. I'm your host, Mason Marangella, aka the Rig Doctor, and I've been building rigs for over a decade for many of the industry's top pros, and now I'm giving away all my secrets to DIYers just like you. I'm giving away all my tricks, tips, resources, and easy hacks I've learned over the years so that you can build a pedal board just like a pro. And with that in mind, today I've got a special guest, my good friend Mason Stoops. We've known each other since about 2014, and Mason is one of the most talented guitar players that I know, certainly among the most talented guitar players in LA. Played with Jackson Brown and does all sorts of sessions all over LA and is really just one of the go-to guys. He's been in all the recent Fender demo videos and just has a way with the guitar where he can evoke so much emotion with the simplest of chords, playing cowboy chords and just making them sound like you've never heard them before. He's really a true inspiration and one of my favorite guitar players and a real gearhead. And today we're really going to talk about his favorite pedals, how he nails some of the signature Rycooter tones with this triple delay thing that he's doing, which is a really cool idea. He takes us through some of the kind of session picks that you want to have as a session guitar player, and also some of the staples on his rigs that are pretty dissimilar to kind of the session staples. And then we get into talking about the food scene in LA a little bit, our favorite ice creams. It goes to some strange places, but if you're considering going to LA or you live in LA, I think you're going to have some great restaurant recommendations on your hand and some nice places for dessert, so keep that in mind as you listen. If you want to support this podcast, you can do it in a couple of ways. You can share it on social media. You can, of course, subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to it right now and you like it. Or you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also support this podcast financially by purchasing one of our Vertex Effects products from an authorized dealer or going to therigdr.com, where we offer all sorts of pre-made cables and pedal board materials such as our signature Velcro, our tie-down mounts, our zip ties. All that good stuff is there. We also have a Patreon page where you can sign up for a membership as low as $4.99 a month, and that gives you exclusive deals and discounts and a weekly Q&A/AMA that we do for our membership. It's a private stream that happens on YouTube that you'd have access to. So that's also a cool thing. And then we also have other more expensive versions where you can get one-on-one coaching with me, and you can check that on Patreon. And we also have a version of it on the rigdr.com website so that you can check that out if you want to get some one-on-one coaching and you want to have me walk you through kind of my process and how we might go about fixing up your rig. And I can really help you there to kind of get all the things you need, all the resources that you need, and really address your rig individually. So do check that out if you're curious. And we actually also have a free version of the account. If you can't afford any of these options, we offer essentially the same criteria as the $4.99 membership for free if you can't afford it, because we don't want money to be standing between you and great tone. So do make sure that you request a free account if you'd like a free account. And we just request that when you do have a free account, if your financial circumstances change and you can afford the $4.99 a month, that you become a supporting member at that time. But until then, there's absolutely no shame. Please don't be bashful. Please reach out. We're happy to grant you a free account. Lastly, before we get into this interview, I want to thank all of our sponsors, Blue Microphones, for providing all of the mics that we're using for these interviews. Also, True Tone for being a sponsor, providing us with some giveaway items such as the True Tone milliamp reader and also the cable tester and also the True Tone power supplies. And Diodario for providing strings, capos, guitar maintenance kits, all sorts of things that are part of our weekly Q&A that we've been doing. We really appreciate them for supporting us and the podcast. So thank you to Diodario. And without further delay, I bring you my good friend, Mason Stoops. We have the illustrious Mason Stoops. And I think the story goes back quite a ways, but the Freemasons meeting, of course. How could we forget? But actually, I think who introduced us was Josh Murdy.
Are you sure? Whoa, yeah. Yeah. And now Josh is Mr. Hollywood. He's always been Mr. Hollywood, dude. Are you kidding me? Josh is cooler than everyone.
He is. But when he first moved here, he was like hipster Josh. And now he's like fashion forward Josh.
Man, I don't know. He's just Josh,
I love him.
I haven't seen him in a while. He had a kid,
Yeah, but he's actually, I think, a really underrated guitar player too.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think he gets enough credit for his guitar playing.
He was like one of my very first guitar friends when I moved to LA.
Was he?
Yeah. Yeah, we did a gig together through Barry Squire, which is a name that, for people who don't know who Barry Squire is, like, don't worry.
Yeah, tell us about Barry.
It's just a name, but to the people who came to LA and had to, rise through the Barry Squire years. I don't know.
Yeah, well, he would break guitar players, like into the scene. I mean, some people, have great gigs because of him.
No, that's what I'm like. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that he's not famous to people outside of the LA instrumentalist or touring scene, but to all of us, he's like our god. Like he's like all my first gigs, all of my man, I remember like moving to LA and everyone's like, man, if you're lucky and you can figure out how to get on his radar, you're going to want to know Barry Squire. And that was just the guy to know. And he books so much stuff and booked so many great bands for so many great artists. And I owe most of, I owe everything that I have now as far as being a professional musician. Like all that goes back to like Barry Squire days.
What year was that you officially moved to LA?
I think I moved to LA. I moved to Mount Washington. That was the first place I lived. Gotta mute my phone. I moved to LA in 2013, November of 2013.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I probably met you maybe a year after that.
Yeah. I don't remember the first time we met, but it was probably at Josh's apartment.
Yeah, I think it was at his place in Glendale.
Yeah.
Which, man, he made the most out of that place.
For real, dude. The separate garage in an apartment like building.
A 2-story apartment building, and he had a garage on the bottom story that was detached and ran an ISO cab.
Had an ISO cab down in there. That's commitment, dude.
I remember helping him build a rig for his Echo Smith tour in that garage with an RJM PBC 10, like when it was new.
Yeah.
And I remember him showing me his ISO setup, and I think he built it all himself too.
He did all of that himself, dude. That's what I'm saying. Josh was cool before all of us. Deep respect for Josh.
Yeah, I do have a lot of respect for him. He was making it work, man. He was doing it. So what was like so you moved to LA, and I think that I remember you telling me when we were talking before that you had gone to like a music, or you'd done some study of music at a community college or something like that in Orange County before you came here.
That's correct.
But there wasn't like, you weren't like going to music school. You were just like, I'm just going to jump into the scene. Yeah.
I spent some time at Fullerton College. And they have the applied music. They have a really reputable and competitive jazz program there that I can't remember all these years later how, but was connected with the Berklee College of Music through some kind of system. So if you wanted to go to Berklee and really kind of get the right people's attention, the idea is that you would go and hopefully get into the applied music program at Fullerton College. And I had been studying classical guitar at high school up to that point at OSHA, and
which is the art school in Orange County.
Yeah, bizarre, like small charter school in like the middle of a downtown. It was an old bank building. We had to like take the stairs to all of our classes. So like photography was on the 7th floor, and like science was on the 6th floor.
The guitar players, they put them in the vault.
The teacher's lounge was the vault. And this sounds cool. Like, this sounds like it would be cool, and it was not. It was not a cool building. Yeah, but I had a lot of great times. And I learned a lot. Studied classical. was dead set on going to Berkeley, did the Berkeley summer program, auditioned for Berkeley, but I'd left high school a semester early because I just was really anxious. I went to my first NAM. I was just going all over the place, 100 miles an hour. And so because I left high school a semester early, I needed to do something to fill the time. Thought I would go to Fullerton College for a minute, and by the time I got in there, I had a really negative kind of experience, which I'd already not had a great experience with school, I really just wanted to play guitar, and it turns out that Fullerton College, at least for me, was tough. Didn't really get along with the guy who ran the program. Kind of seemed to, I don't know, just honestly, more important than the negative stuff, I got offered a gig up in LA, or at least to audition for a gig, and I thought it was like an email, like a spam that I got that was like, hey, would you like to come audition for this artist? And I went and did that, and it's crazy. Like, my car broke down when I got there because I really wanted to go home, but I couldn't, so I just had to stay and do the audition. So I got too nervous. I was like, I'm just going to go home. And I went out to get in my car and it wouldn't start. I had the Saab 9000, which I love, but really bad issues with the starter at that point. And, so I called my dad. He's like, you got to go in, you got to do the audition. And I did. And I did get the gig. And I was very excited about that. And the person who I was in communications with at Berkeley at the time was like, oh, you should definitely do the gig. Like, you should, like, you could come back and, reapply anytime.
Right.
But my advisor, the person I was talking to, was kind of getting advice from about it. Was like, you should 100% go to LA and you should take that gig.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and I've been stuck here since. Right.
I didn't realize the part about. Well, I mean, God bless the Saab. Had that not happened, who knows where you'd be.
The front desk guy at SIR, this dude Justin. I crashed on his couch that night. He took me to Ralph's. We bought frozen food. We watched a movie. It was such a good, positive experience, considering how much of a negative experience it was.
Is the SIR like near Hollywood and Vine there?
Yeah, up in near Studio City, North Hollywood vibe.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there it is.
Yeah.
So I think for like people that, I think most people that probably listen to this know who you are, but I've always said this, and Josh Murdy has always said this, that you're like one of the best guitar players in LA. Certainly one of my favorite guitar players in LA, and I felt like I haven't been in touch with you that much lately, and then I saw you on a bunch of those Fender videos for all their demos.
Why would you say that? Well, whatever. All right, yeah, I know. Yeah, continue.
And I just like, it's like whenever I hear you play the guitar, you have such a vibe, and it's so different than anybody else's approach, and it's so contagious, and I'm not trying to blow smoke at you, because I think I've told you this before. But there is something that you do with the guitar when you're doing your own thing. I mean, you can, we had you impersonate Mark Knopfler once for one of those videos, like a couple of years ago, and you were a great Mark Knopfler.
Thank you.
But when you do your own thing, though, it's like there is like a specialness to it, and I was just like reminded of that, just hearing you like play, a 30-second part before you introduced yourself in the video. I was like, oh my God, this is like such great guitar playing.
Thank you, man.
And so I was like, man, I need to talk to Mason and see what he's up to, and just connect, even if it wasn't about us talking on a podcast. Just like,
forget the podcast. How
saying,
are you?
Hey,
Yeah.
And so you already told me in the sort of our pre-recorded section, you're doing a lot of drawing.
Yeah. Still am. Not as much. Work's coming back. Sessions are coming back. Tours are kind of getting, there's rumors of tour. So I still need to finish up. So I'm not taking on any new drawings until I have some people that have been really, really, really patient. So I got to finish theirs. But it did get me through the pandemic for sure. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What would you say, like, as a musician, has been like your big takeaway from this? Like, of course, in the beginning, it's frightening because we don't know what's going to go on. Has there been any silver lining for you on this?
Regarding being in quarantine during this last
yeah, I mean, is there been any sort of ahas like musically or anything that you feel like, you know, like for all the terrible things that this brought upon us, was there anything that was like a diamond in the rough? And maybe the answer is no.
I mean, who really cares what I think? You know, first of all,
I'm curious on a personal level. This is me just ignoring the fact that we're recording this and that we're just talking.
Well, I don't know if I had any ahas. I did really enjoy getting to step away from the guitar for the first time, I guess, since I moved here, where the guitar was in the room, but I was doing other work that I didn't need it for, whereas I'm not like grabbing the guitar by the neck, you know, at the end of the month, being like, we got to pay rent. Like, you know, like all of my money and income for the, you know, since my adult life has been trying to make things work with the guitar. And that's rewarding when it's happening and when you're busy and you have those months that feels like a lot of stuff is getting booked. But it's super, at least in the beginning, it was super tough getting through the dry spells. And there are always dry spells. Everyone will learn that when you start playing music more, or my friends or any listeners who do play music a lot know this very well. There's always dry spells. And those are stressful. And so it's just, you know, the career of a musician, you know, forget people, you know, all that stuff where people like being a professional musician is super easy and everyone should do it. They're wrong. It's actually really hard. Yeah. I don't know who told me that this was easy.
Right.
But all to say, it's a lot of work, and I've enjoyed the work, but it comes with some anxiety. So to be in the middle of a otherwise very dark time, but I kind of find this break with the guitar where I was making money with these drawings, and it kind of took the financial pressure off the guitar and like my career pressure off the guitar. It took all these things that my adult life added to guitar that weren't there when I first picked it up, right? Mm-hmm. So now when I would pick up a guitar and I wasn't thinking about my rent and I wasn't thinking about my career, I wasn't thinking about work or anything, and it was just like playing guitar for fun, like when I was 14 or 15, kind of was refreshing. It was refreshing to sit back with a guitar and just play for fun and kind of explore things or just enjoy the sound of a good thing. Honestly, like cowboy chords sound so good. Just sitting and strumming cowboy chords, like so satisfying. That's all a guitar really needs to do. So
you have a way of making the cowboy chords sound really interesting. I mean, for a lot of the Fender-y stuff, it was sort of like it was like if you took that sound sample, it could have very well have just been a Fender recorded demo from an early 60s or mid 50s, like Fender, like sort of demonstration in terms of like just the note choice and the vibe of it. There's like a certain like old worldness to the approach that you bring to the guitar, where cowboy chords are like cool again, and that's like the cutting edge, you know, like, but you sell it so well.
Thank you, man. That's the dream. I just want to play cowboy chords. I just think that's what sounds the most honest on guitar, and this should be direct. And yeah, I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, so even though you're mostly doing cowboy chords, I think sort of the core element of what I usually get into in the podcast is we ultimately end up getting to stuff that's regarding gear. So every once in a while, I want to pull us back to that. And I know before the pandemic, we were like gearing up to do like a pedal board. And
we're still doing it.
Presumably the items may have changed now.
They've all changed.
So we'll have that to contend with, and I think that'll be a fun video at some point in the future whenever we decide to start it up again. But I'm kind of curious, like, you know, first of all, if we're going through like, you know, the sort of the standards, like right now, what would you say are kind of your, let's maybe limit it to 5, like your top 5 effects that you find yourself just like really gravitating towards? This doesn't mean that these are the only 5, but right now, what do you find yourself kind of moving towards? What are you finding inspiring? What are you finding to be kind of cool, new, and sexy in the world of pedals? And this could be stuff you've rediscovered or new stuff that's, you know, just come out.
Okay. Top 5, like studio or live or just in general? We're just doing it in general.
Well, I mean, let's just take this moment in time. Presumably, it's probably more studio oriented, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Which, you know, that can be more fun, especially with pedals. Top 5 things that are interesting to me right now. Number 5, we can get into this. It just showed up today, but I've been chasing one of these down or thinking about getting one for a while. But you've seen these guys yet? I mean, I'm sure you have. The Crucial Audio. It's a tube preamp. And I know I certainly have a lot of opinions about tube pedals. As far as, you know, are they gimmicky, are they valuable, or do they do something special, and, you know, all those in betweens. And I think there's, you know, room for lots of interpretation. All to say, this is different because this is the preamp half of the Echo Nugget that Crucial Audio makes, and it's just one guy, a really nice dude named Steve, who's building these tube pedals. But he makes one called the Echo Nugget, and it's about the size of my head. And it has half of an echo and half of a tube preamp. It's an analog echo, analog and all tube discrete, you know, preamp. But what's cool about that, or at least what was intriguing to me, is it's like Ry Cooder, right? And for the last several years has been like, that's the core of his sound. And to me, Ry Cooder is one of the few guitar players that continues to sound better, or continues to like push himself sound wise. Some people coast. A lot of people coast. Jeff Beck is always pushing. He's always like getting better at guitar. And Ry Cooder to me is a guy who's, even at his age now, he's pushing himself and really expanding upon his sounds and his ideas on the guitar. And all to say, it's a pedal he was using, so I was intrigued. I've been using his like triple delay kind of secret for a while now. We could talk about that too.
Yeah.
But so I'm just kind of going down this path of approaching really technical pedals, or maybe not technical, but simple, just kind of sound enhancing pedals like the 29 pedals, the Una, or this Tone Nugget, things on the front of my pedal board that will enhance or bring more out of just like the guitar, and kind of skipping a lot of drives and fuzzes, anything that's emulating an amp or anything, and then getting right into the opposite. By the time you get to the opposite of the board, it's like crazy digital shit that's doing all the opposite. So I'm kind of exploring those two outside worlds instead of like, well, which overdrive is the most organic, or which, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of doing more with amps, letting fuzz and stuff come from amps and blowing speakers. And so what pedals that used to excite me before that were like cool fuzzes or replica, you know, Tone Bender Mark IIs or super fuzzes, now I'm kind of just blowing up amps when I need that stuff. And so things like this tube preamp are going to help me a lot with that. So that's where I'm going. So
nice. Tone Nugget. Tone Nugget. And before we talk about pedal number 4, I want to hear the triple delay thing.
Oh, man. So if you look at Ry's pedal board, right, he's got that big Echo Nugget up front. Then there's an Old Blood Noise Black Fountain, which has been a favorite pedal of mine, like since before it came out, because I worked with Brady and those guys when he was first leaving Walrus to do Old Blood Noise, and I had a couple oil can units that I was using at the time for work, and so we kind of went back and forth. If I'm remembering correctly, they sent me a couple different ones, what became the Black Fountain. But anyway, the Black Fountain is like a really killer oil can delay, so he's got that second, and then there's a third delay that's kind of an early era boutique pedal called the Quicksilver. So there's 3 delays going on, and it sounds overwhelming. You think that would lead to like mega church, like, well, he must be doing a lot of like dotted 8 stuff or rhythmic stuff with 3 delays, and he's not. At least from what I've been able to figure out. And there's a guy on YouTube who I should give credit to. I don't know his name, but he has a video about it, and I learned a lot from him, so I don't want to take all the credit. How are they spaced apart in terms of their repeats or the delay times? The first one, both the first and second are very quick, very, very subtle slaps, right? The first one is a really quiet slap, that almost inaudible, and that's a brighter, clearer one. That's coming from the first pedal the echo nugget. Then it goes into the black fountain, which is doing another very narrow, very quick slap. But the black fountain is super dark. So without even getting to the third one, like, let's break down what's happening with these two. Essentially what he's doing is widening the note or fattening the note. If there's this really quick slap that's happening that's so quick it doesn't necessarily, there's not a gap between the hitting the string, there's not like a space and then an echo. It's just, they're almost instantaneous, like right next to each other.
Okay.
So it's essentially fattening that note. Everything you play has a very quick slap that you don't hear the delay, you just kind of hear this almost like a response, almost like a room reverb sound in a way. So you take that's happening, and then you run that again into a darker slap that's now adding a second slap to that first one, so it's making it even fatter. And if you know Rye's playing, or if you're a fan of Rye's playing, what's so special about Rye is he makes incredible melodies and plays these beautiful solos that are actually like kind of simple and spacious. He's not shredding a lot, he's not doing a lot of runs, but there's just something to the sound and the warmth, and he can make one note sound so huge. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that goes to his hands and just the way he plays and his touch, of course. But when you see tricks like that, it shows that he's actually consciously thinking about, like, how do I make these notes sound really fat? And so that was interesting to me, and I've been doing a lot of that on my board. And then the third delay will just be a semi-rhythmic delay that'll kind of be in time with the song. He'll adjust that one as he needs, usually. But that'll just kind of be in the background as a slight, almost inaudible rhythmic delay.
Got it.
You have the two slaps, bright slap, dark slap, and then a rhythmic delay that are basically all on all the time, but you don't really hear it. It's more of a feel thing. But
got it.
So cool.
That brings us to pedal number 4.
I know. Sorry, we're getting way too deep, way too early.
No, I think this is good. I think it's depth over breadth.
Pedal number 4. Man, I should look. I've got my backpack. I take a backpack with me to every session that just hangs out in my car, but it has. This is where I keip pedals, so it's just in the room with me. So I could just. Oh,
you got a range master.
Let's just see what comes out of the bag. The first thing on top was this DJ Lava Lamps R2R electric treble booster.
Nice.
He just makes like the most authentic replica of an old school treble booster. He's recycling new old stock capacitors and even the pots, and he's doing them beautifully, and he makes them all by hand. And he's here in LA. He helps me source parts for my guitars and other things. One of the best dudes, but definitely the best treble booster as far as like the old school range master thing. That's
not so practical for a pedal board though. No,
he does make one that is pedal board size, but I love having this on my amp, the big box.
Right.
You know,
and if you get into trouble, you can protect yourself.
What looks cooler than that? Just having a big knob in the front of your amp, you know? But they're really more than... Obviously, they do the treble boosting thing as, you know, the sending an amp over the edge thing better than... I mean, that's the shit. But I've been using it just as kind of a tone sculpting thing in sessions. I use this, like, K-Thin Twin a lot. It's like 50s, very honky-tonky, mid-range, like, old school, like, just... badass sounding old woody guitar, but it can get dark sometimes, so just kind of adding presence through germanium transistors instead of like an EQ pedal is really cool. So I've been using that a lot. We ran some snare through it recently. Just a great treble booster.
Wow. Is that a CE1?
Yeah, that's next, CE1.
Now, is this one modified, or is this just a stock?
This is all original. I got this off of Craigslist, like most of my gear, when I was like 17. So
you haven't wanted to true bypass it or change the impedance to work with a guitar better?
No, I mean, I don't know. It sounds so good.
Dude, have you ever thought about taking it to Paul Rivera? He was like the guy who like did all those originally for all the session guys.
I know, but I'm always the guy that like as soon as I get shit, I want to take it apart and mod it and make it the best. But like I'm almost sentimental about this one because I've had it so long.
Right.
And I bought it from like a weird old guitar dude, so who knows what's going on inside of here. I mean, I know I've opened it up. I'm 90% sure it hasn't been modded. But when something is working and when you have a sound or an idea in your head and you go and grab it and it just does it every time, I don't want to risk, like, what is better? Like, yes, it could sound better, like more hi-fi, clear, all of that. But, you know, it's like your favorite memories aren't, it's like your favorite food isn't always like the best food. It's like the fucking like microwave hot dog your mom made, something, you know, those memories, that kind of thing is valuable in the way that we relate to our memories and art. So
right,
this is my microwave hot dog. I know it could be better. I know the CE1 could be modded to be clear and more hi-fi, but when I turn this on, it takes me there.
Right.
When I plug it in, it's just like, yes, that's... And I love doing the Lenoir move or the T-Bone Burnett move, where you use this as like basically a preamp and like just crank the line level on this.
Right.
To just like, man, Intro of the Maker by Willie Nelson on the Teatro album. That's Daniel Lenoir with a Blackguard Telly into his Korg rack delay that he uses for everything all the time.
Right.
Into
the SD.
Yep. And then from there into a Vox AC30, and that to me, that intro of just his guitar playing is like my favorite guitar tone, and his sound, a big part of his sound, especially that era of it, was just cranking the line level with the Korg delay. So like, yes, he loves the delay in that and he uses that, but even just as a preamp, it's like such a part of his sound. So recently I've been using this, like I was saying earlier, like really exploring with the Tone Nugget Tube preamp or the Boss CE1, seeing what I could do with the relationship between my guitar and my amp, with, you know, really using the volume knobs more, getting old pots, new old stock pots that I like the tapers of that seem to stay clear, and really trying to utilize a volume knob on my guitar instead of like stacking a bunch of different gain stages with pedals, like seeing what I can do at the front end of the amp with these preamps and my volume knob. It just feels a little more connected to the guitar than like the old way of like what I had several stages of like drive on my board. So anyway.
Yeah.
And also, so yeah, C1, I love the preamp, and I love obviously the chorus and the vibrato. But excuse me. On that note, I guess pedal number 3 could be one that I've used for the last couple years in like a lot of sessions, which is similar to the Mr. Black. I'm sorry, to the Boss CE1, but it is a Mr. Black, the Stereo Vintage Ensemble. That thing's amazing. That's the only pedal that I think the stereo image that pedal creates surpasses the CE1. As far as the movement that's going on.
Is that what Jack DeVille's intent was with that pedal? Was to kind of be like a better CE1 or a replica of CE1? Yeah,
it's called the Stereo Vintage Ensemble, so it's kind of playing with the name. And if you look at the artwork on the pedal, it definitely pays tribute to the CE1.
And is it analog or is it...
it's digital.
It's digital.
But it's, you know, if it's Jack DeVille, it's like it's going to sound... He knows how to make everything sound unbelievable. He's a legend.
Yeah.
But what's most intriguing about it isn't just the fact that it's a CE1 emulator. It's doing a true stereo chorus that the CE1 and a lot of other stereo choruses don't actually do. The CE1, a lot of pedals do a thing when you're in stereo where it sends vibrato to one amp and the other one stays dry. And the blend of those creates the chorus. That's why, like, I mean, you know this, but I didn't know this for a long time, that there's so many like Univibes or CE1s that have vibrato and chorus. Lots of pedals have vibrato and chorus because the chorus is like blending vibrato with the dry signal. And a lot, like, so when you're switching between vibrato and chorus on, say, like a Univibe, you're switching like the dry signal in and out more than I guess not a Univibe. Univibe is truly vibrato, but on a CE1, you're switching the vibrato in and out with the dry signal, or the dry signal in and out with the vibrato. So, like on an old Roland JC 120, like the stereo image on those is like the chorus in those amps is, these jazz chorus amps are fucking unbelievable, right? But
well, that's what the CE1 is based off of.
Yeah, and it's doing the same thing. When you go to the stereo chorus in that amp, the way it works is the same way the CE1 works, where one speaker in the amp is dry and the other one has vibrato. Lots of pedals do that. the Mr. Black, the stereo vintage ensemble, actually has two vibrato waves or chorus waves happening opposite of each other, and there's a foot switch to make them work kind of at the same time, where they're taking the same shape, or you can flip them 180 degrees, so while one's going up, the other one's going down. And what you get out of that is super musical, and taking like a stereo guitar, or a guitar that has two pickups with their own output, and recording that and sending each output left and right and hard panning them with something like that, doing a very subtle, almost inaudible chorusing or vibrato, and especially with that 180 degrees like offset thing that the stereo vintage ensemble does. You just get this thickness and this presence from the guitar that wasn't there before. So that's been a huge like secret weapon pedal for me in sessions.
Nice.
That was going to be one we were going to try to fit on the giant board we were going to do.
Okay. Well, there's still time. So is that 3 pedals so far?
Yeah. 3. Fuck, I don't know. Number 2. Okay. I've been recently, through Josh Scott, getting into Source Audio pedals.
Uh-huh.
Totally slept on them before.
Okay.
But man, as far as like a new pedal company, or a pedal company that's currently making like new products, like I couldn't believe their line and the pedals that they make. Their synth pedal, I've got it here. Oh no, it's in a different bag.
I know it though. The C4.
The C4.
Yeah.
What an unbelievable pedal.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it for a lot of like bass guys. I haven't used it with too many guitar guys.
Oh man, it's been like the day it showed up, I took it to a session, and it ended up on a track like that day. Like,
yeah.
And that's not even getting into like you could go on the app with your phone and like go. I know a lot of people think that stuff can get cheesy, but it's so cool, and Source Audio does it, and they make it cool and easy, and you could just scroll through on your phone and load sounds into the pedal, user created sounds, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've been preaching the Collider for a while as like a really great like all-in-one delay and reverb for people that kind of want to consolidate. The downside of it is that it doesn't have a digital display. So some people, they can't do that because they want the digital display.
Totally.
But if you can get across that, it's a great device for wet dry rigs because it has its own mixer, and it's got analog dry, and it's got the ability to run them in parallel at 100% wet. And so you can use that as your, you can basically run a wet dry system, and having the reverb and delay being the wet effects, and you don't need to buy a mixer in order to be able to pull it off. You can just do it all within the pedal. And so I think that's a pretty cool thing because it eliminates a lot of components which generally like prevent people from wanting to really go all in. And they sound great. And the other thing about them is that, the guy that does all their DSP stuff, he was like the main guy at Kurzweil for a long time. And he's one of those guys that's been writing DSP like for a long time. Like there's a couple of guys that are super advanced, and he's one of them. Brian Newneighbor is another guy who's really advanced.
Brian's a legend.
And from Orange County, and he was working. Yeah. He was working for QSC for a long time.
I didn't know that. Stuff.
Yeah, he used to work for QSC before he started Newneighbor. I think actually in parallel for a time. And then of course the guys at Strymon, they've done pretty good.
Yeah, we're surrounded by just immense talent.
Yeah, and Jack DeVille is another guy that I don't know if he started off with it, but he certainly got great at it, and has designed some of probably the most popular DSP based pedals in the last 10 or 15 years.
Who is that? I talked over your name because I'm an idiot.
No, you said Jack DeVille is probably one of those guys who's designed for so many people, and he probably he's kind of like the Max Martin of like pedal designers, like behind the scenes, like has produced a lot of hits for other brands.
Yes, dude. I don't think people realize. Like, it's a great metaphor. He is the Max Martin.
Yeah, he's the Max pedals. Martin. He's had so many hits for other people, and he can still go to coffee shops all over Portland, and nobody knows who he is. Man, it's just like Max Martin.
Man, Jack is he's one of my favorite people, but books should be written about the stuff that he's made. I mean, and you know he's like, I mean, just like you said, he's the man behind so many great circuit board designs. He's the man behind so many great fucking pedals. Sometimes he'll just send me layouts that he's working on just so I can like bask in like the perfection of his layouts. Like, the guy is so good at what he does. And,
yeah.
Deep respect. Jamie Stillman is also like, you know, as far as guys who I just have immense amount of respect for, you know, the pedal designs that he comes up with and kind of his philosophy for the pedals he does with Earthquaker, of course. And you got to mention Julie Robbins as well, because I mean, they're like dream team, but she's working on all the other sides of Earthquaker you don't see, and a lot of the stuff you do see. But as far as just a great company coming up with great stuff, like
yeah, I think John Cusack should also be mentioned among those really great designers. I mean, I know that he doesn't, you know, his pedals are not like his biggest thing, but I mean, he's manufacturing and designing for
so many companies.
Yeah, he's so many.
There's all these ghost writers, like for songs. There's all these ghost pedal designers. There
are. I think that honestly, I would say that I would be interesting to really like track down the statistic, but I think it would be something like there's probably like 5 guys that are producing like half the pedals that are out there. And I mean, and then
1%.
if you consider, and then if you consider like the pedals that actually like are brands that, you know, you could buy at, you know, stores like a Sweetwater or, you know, Guitar Center, they probably are producing more than 50%, you know, of those designs, or even, you know, in the case of Cusack, manufacturing them as well.
Robert Keeley, him too, of course.
Is he doing? Oh yeah, but he's not doing contract manufacturing or design.
I thought they were doing contract manufacturing at one point. Were they not? Were they just busy being Keeley?
I don't know. I guess I never asked Robert that question.
We got to find out.
Yeah, get to the bottom of it. We'll have Robert on. But I know he's got a lot of smart guys. I mean, he was kind of like, he had this beautiful like situation where he was like, you know, teaching electrical, you know, engineering classes at a college, and he could just poach his best students to come and work for him.
Genius.
Yeah, it was a great move. I don't know if he's still teaching there anymore, but that was a brilliant move. So we kind of got through a couple of the five ones that are most interesting to you.
We can call it 5. I mean, there's just too many.
I guess we didn't get. Did we get to number 1? We got to 4.
There's new pedals every week. I love the Generation Loss. I use that a lot by Cooper Effects.
Okay, yeah.
I've been really digging. Gosh, I mean, I love my King of Tone, but who doesn't love a King of Tone? Are the Prince of Tones, you would know that you'd be exactly the guy to ask about this. Is the Prince of Tone really the same as the half of the King of Tone?
That's my understanding. Is it's just one channel. I don't think it's the high gain version. I think it's just like the standard version. And they've kind of gone up in price.
Have they?
Lately. Yeah, they used to be really cheap. Like I remember I used to be able to get like a Prince of Tone for like $180.
That's what I literally told a friend last night, get one for like $180. I thought, are they not going for that now?
Yeah, somebody had said to me, like, because I had suggested a similar thing to somebody, because we did a video like a couple weeks ago where we compared an original Blues Breaker that I have to a Morning Glory, and just to see how close they got.
Mason,
and they're almost
I watched the video.
Oh, you did? Okay.
You know I watch every video.
I didn't know that.
Course.
But it was really pretty close. I mean, it was very indistinguishable. You know, something that could be dialed, I think, you know, because sometimes, you know, I was playing the parts here, and so I was trying to dial them in the best I could in the room. Sometimes when you hear them back close mic'd, there can be a little different, you know, small differences. But I thought it was pretty indistinguishable. But somebody had said, oh, you know, like, you know, what's another one that I might get? And I said, oh, just check out a Prince of Tone. And then they sent me back like a screenshot and reverb, and they're all like almost $300.
No way.
Yeah, so it's like you can almost buy an original Blues Breaker for maybe $100 more.
Bummer.
Yeah, so that's been found out. People just bought two Princes of Tones.
The whole time.
Yeah. Could have just done it.
I really just used the one side of the King of Tone way more than the other. So I was kind of thinking
I found like I had to use both of them. I felt like they never had enough gain.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, but you know, you're certainly more advanced. You know, I mean, speaking of microwave hot dogs, that's kind of the guitar player that I am. You know, where you're kind of a beef Wellington at a you know a famous rustic French restaurant in Provence.
I don't want to be a beef Wellington. I just want to be like a double from In-N-Out, animal style, well done fries.
Well done fries.
Black and
so
white
where do you fall in that debate? I mean, speaking of Josh Scott, he's always like throwing shade at In-N-Out. What's the deal with that?
There is no debate. There's no debate. I mean, In-N-Out is like, if you're mad at In-N-Out, like, it's such a simple burger. Like, there's nothing like. People say they don't like their fries. It's like they literally just cut up a potato like 2 minutes before you started eating them. Like, there's not a lot that could happen. And then you're going to get the foodies who are like, well, it's how they prepare the fries, and potatoes need to be frozen first for the starch. I understand that. But In-N-Out's not trying to be anything more than just like a quick, consistent, high quality, like clean, approachable, fucking rad burger for its Southern California community, and we dearly appreciate it here. And being from Southern California, I was essentially raised on In-N-Out. I have almost every In-N-Out t-shirt from every year, going back to 1980. Well, I have an 89. I don't have the 87 yet, but working on it. Just saying, there is no debate. I can understand someone not liking it. People are allowed to be wrong. That's totally cool. But I love Josh, but he's wrong. And we've talked about it. Josh and I have had long talks about it. He prefers a McDonald's burger to
In-N-Out.
He prefers a McDonald's cheeseburger to an In-N-Out burger.
Wow. Well, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I always feel like people are having the Shake Shack debate, and I feel like it's not really it's not comparable, because you can't get out of a Shake Shack for less than like $20 a person.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a comparable meal at In-N-Out, it's maybe $12 or something like that. So it's not really like a 1-to-1, you know. And Anthony Bourdain and all these, like, you know, all these guys would always talk about, you know, that's the first thing they did. They landed in LAX and they go to In-N-Out.
I mean, plus, it's other things too that factor in. I love the color scheme. I love, like, the simple design of the restaurants. I love the small menu. I love that they pay their employees, like, really beyond fair wages. Like, a manager at In-N-Out makes more than $100,000.
Yeah. I think they do it at McDonald's too, to be fair.
Look, you can take your McDonald's talk to someone else's podcast, but we're on the Mason's podcast by Mason Stoops, definitely not the Vertex podcast. And here, we respect the foundation that is In-N-Out.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic. I mean, I remember as a kid, it was a real special treat. I remember they opened one up in Goleta, kind of near UCSB.
That's where you grew up.
Yeah. Or there was one in Ventura, but we would go there way less frequently. I remember my wife too, because she grew up in LA, but there wasn't an In-N-Out near her. Like when she was a kid, the closest one was when they would drive out to their grandparents' house. It was like in the high desert, like, you know, kind of going toward like Barstow. And there was like one on the way there, and they kind of equally like look forward to the idea that they would go to In-N-Out. So there is a nostalgia of like being a kid in Southern California.
Yeah, man. I mean, you just can't. That's what there's just, when it's part of your actual childhood, there's just not a debate to be had. It's part of my life. Right. It's like family. I love In-N-Out.
You could make an argument though that McDonald's was in Southern California in its foundation, because I think the first one was in San Bernardino.
Ray Kroc was a complex, business savvy, heartless man who I respect. But, you know, McDonald's is, you know, we could talk about this for a while. I'm just going to say, I like Ray Kroc. I like what he's done with the place, you know. But as far as, like, the game of maintaining the quality of, like, the thing you started out to do, you know, it's not really a conversation.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, unquestionably, you know, when you get an In-N-Out burger, it looks like the picture.
Yeah, and I know Josh, if he hears this, he's just going to be like, I understand all that, but it just doesn't taste good. So he's just going to go back to the taste thing.
Well, you have to establish your baseline. You know, like maybe people's baseline on fries is that they're not fresh fries that are cut. cut from a potato, right into a fryer. It's like somebody may love gas station sushi. Who am I to stand in their way?
Yeah.
For other people, they won't do anything less than Nobu. We all have a baseline.
We're a sushi stop family in this household.
Sushi stop?
I mean, it's cheap, it's consistent. I don't even want to get into the sushi conversation.
I don't even know where that is.
It's there's multiple locations
all over LA.
There's more. There's definitely more than like 5. There's several. I would say there are several sushi stops. Is it questionable to eat? Sometimes, but there's just as far as cheap sushi goes, that's all right with us. It's not ideal. It's not wasabi and Tustin. It's not
sugarfish.
The sugarfish thing, dude. Come on.
You don't like the surprise me option?
I do,
or
but that's just called omakase, and any truly great sushi place will offer that. So I don't know. Respect, but also overpriced.
What we'll have to do is a sushi just throw down when we're in LA and see who really has the best.
Okay.
And we'll videotape it.
Fair enough.
This is going to become a food blog, actually.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about ice cream yet. And you and I have talked in depth about ice cream.
I want to save the ice cream conversation to break up this next pedal segment.
All right, fine, fair enough.
So I want to talk about Mason Stoops' 5 must-have guitar pedals that every guitar player worth his or her salt should have in their arsenal, whether they're going to be doing live gigs or whether they're going to be doing session gigs. These are important pedals that you have to have these food groups, and maybe an example of what one of those might be. So you could keep it generic or somewhat abstract in that mid-range overdrive. An example.
Man, that's tough. I have a lot of feelings about that because I don't want to.
Do you still have that Tube Screamer?
What's that?
Do you still have that Tube Screamer?
Oh yeah, I've got a TS-808. I've got a TS-9. I have a TS-10.
Mm-hmm.
I love the TS-10. Honestly, that's the one that I think sounds the best. But I don't know if that's common. I don't know if people disagree with that or what. But to me, the TS-10 is very vibey.
Well, of course, John Mayer's on your side.
He's a TS-10 guy?
He's a TS-10 guy.
I should know that. Yeah, I follow there's a John Mayer gear account on Instagram, and I definitely follow it.
They kick me off.
What did you do this time? Let me think. I mean, so there's top 5 pedals that I guess would be essential for approaching the job of most sessions. I also want to have a disclaimer that I don't think that there should be I don't want to pressure people into getting something or not, or if you don't get this, you're not professional.
Right. But I mean, I think that there's going to be, obviously, if you're playing somebody else's music, which presumably most people, even if they're getting to the point where they're going to play their own, that might just be an evolution of what happens as you are a guitar player in LA.
Totally.
You're going to, at some point, you're going to be playing other people's music. So you're going to have certain pieces that are going to sort of be able to cover you through most of the gig. So if you show up with, esoteric stuff,
the Miku stomp,
yeah, then you're going to struggle to find the application for those sorts of.
Bad.
You do, huh?
Oh man, I wish the prices didn't go out of control of those. There's a really cool thing. You know how some delay pedals, or more than delay pedals now, have a built-in effects loop where you can affect the repeats.
Okay, got it.
Running the repeats from a delay into a Miku stomp, turning the mix all the way up on the delay. You start your guitar starts just yelling at you.
So that's going to get you the gig.
You don't understand, and it's awesome. And you could shred, and it'll sound like you're shredding, but it's. Oh man, there's just a lot of fun. There's some fun stuff you can do with the Miku stomp, but what do you think
Barry Squire would say if you showed up to that?
What was that?
What would Barry say if you showed up with one of those to an audition?
I don't know. You never know with Barry. He might be into it.
Yeah. Like, this kid's got moxie.
Yeah. Put him on Glee. Put him in the background of Glee.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think, though, are the necessary...
I could say what my necessary ones as a session player are.
Okay.
I think cover, my main session. I mean, it's just my main pedal board that I take to everything I do. It isn't a big board. You've seen it. In fact, let me grab it really quick because I've got it right here. I want to look at it. All right, what are we looking at? There it is. All right. Number one, I'm going to start with number one instead of 5 this time, because this to me is like the pedal that... It's the sound of guitar, through the ages, and it's the Strymon Flint.
Okay.
Just because, like, tremolo and reverb are like the original effects.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so many, like, staple sounds that, like, defined eras of music can be broken down, or maybe not broken down, but just so much really inspiring music was made with just those two effects.
Right.
And you can cover so much ground. And when you really learn to use, like, if I had to just bring one pedal to a gig, it would be that, because you could just cover so much range, and it adds emotional depth in whatever direction you're trying to go. A fast tremolo can be angry, and a deep reverb can be, emotional and dark, literally. But just to say that really learning to utilize tremolo and reverb as a guitar player will get you so far. If you just had to really master two effects, it'd be that. And they're so simple. It's like speed and depth. And the Flint just has 3 amazing sounding trems and 3 exactly right sounding reverbs. It's just a simple pedal. It's compact and it sounds good. I have like 3 of them in case one breaks down, and then in case the other one breaks down. Like, they're just really, to me, that's a super essential pedal. As far as delays go, honestly, the Line 6 Echo Park has been on my board for like...
The Tim Pierce special.
Is that his move?
Yeah, he also is a big fan.
Dude, I mean, are we all just sleeping on the Line 6? It's such a great pedal. And similar to the Flint, where it covers a lot of ground in a small package, but it's not... there's some amazing pedals out there that pack so much into a very small enclosure, and that's, marvelous that they can do that, and it's a testament to the engineers and the designers for doing that. But as far as my end of the relationship with the pedal, where I'm playing it, I'm in a session, things are moving quickly, you don't really... People talk about this idea of this pedal, that's a great studio pedal, the idea that in a studio you've got all this time to sit and go through presets and knobs and tweedle, but you really don't. Sessions, most work you're going to do as a session musician, they want to be quick. They're trying to knock out 5 songs in like an hour. So you've got to nail takes quickly. If you're hearing a sound, you got to dial it in quickly. There's no let me flip the dip switches on the back of my Chase Bliss pedal. Studio pedals and maybe the creative environment, I would say that they're more creative pedals. But I, as a player, and as a session player especially, going to sessions, want pedals that I can quickly change sounds and will quickly get me to the sound I'm hearing. So yes, There are pedals that maybe are more hi-fi than the Echo Park. There are delay pedals like the Timeline that certainly do more tricks and give you more options to program that. But I don't want to be thinking about all that when I'm in a session. I don't want to be thinking, do I have the bias set exactly right on my, secondary feature function on my El Capistan? Right. I want to just,
Right. Well, I think a lot of guys like, Tom Bukovac and a lot of these other guys still use the M9s for that exact reason, he told me. Because he's like, they have to be able to dial in, then they have to have a knob for every feature of that particular product that they've dialed up. And there's still a knob on an M9 for every screen display.
Yeah.
And so they need to be able to move stuff around fast and no BS.
Man, Yeah, I just can't. I don't want to be. I can't be dealing with screens. I've learned there. I have friends that can do that and are amazing at that, and I really admire that they can do that. But I like pedals. I'd rather have not necessarily a one-trick pony, but a pedal that can do a lot with a little. You know, 3 knobs that can get you really far. To me, is better than like 10 knobs where I've got to now like fine-tune each knob, and I'm thinking about each knob like they're my kids, and do I have the mid set where I need them? Do I have this? Like, you just start overthinking stuff. So
Right. So we got Line 6 Echo Park. We got the Strymon Flint. What else we got?
Honestly, like I said, approaching from the session or professional world, you're going to need a volume pedal, especially live, especially when you're kind of self-monitoring and blending yourself into a mix.
What's your volume pedal of choice?
The Lely volume. I wish it were smaller. I agree.
But I don't know that I agree.
You like
the thing? Well, I think that the thing that people it's bizarre to me from a pedal board, you know, like first of all, I'm hugely fortunate that I started in the industry building rigs and not making pedals, because I think it gives you a perspective for the end use of your products that you don't get if you only built pedals individually. Because there's such an attention to how things interact. Also, with that said, is that we can't redesign the size of the foot. So like the mini pedals are great if you're going to put them on a switcher and you never have to touch them. But if you actually have to engage with the pedals, it's a problem. Like I have a size 12.
Man.
I think the average, you know, male size foot in America is like a 10.5. So it's like, can really a person that has a 10.5 shoe, like their foot is longer, or is as long as an Ernie Ball VP Jr. And the width is probably about that too. And so it's like, there's like kind of like a threshold of like, it looks great on paper, but like the application of that is like, even if you have a smaller volume pedal, you can't redesign the foot unless we're going to start, you know, exercising foot binding or something like that as guitar players so that we can have like, you know, like an easier way to access our volume pedals. So, I mean, I kind of think that anything smaller than an Ernie Ball VP Jr. is kind of like, I mean, maybe you can use it, but it's certainly not a comfortable way to be manipulating your volume.
Man, you are making some very controversial claims right now, and I also want to say that you've completely changed my mind, and I totally agree with you. And I no longer
we can't change the ergonomics.
Because you're totally right.
Yeah,
I take the size for granted, but truly, it's so comfortable to use that. You're exactly right.
Yeah. There's too many volume pedal pervs out there that are trying to use these tiny little volume pedals. You know, stop fetishizing volume pedals.
My foot is this size. You're right. I'm looking at my foot. I'm looking at the volume pedal.
Yeah. What size shoe do you wear?
I'm like a 10.
Okay. And does your shoe have any overlap with the volume pedal, or is it
I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and it's basically
it's basically the size of the treadle.
Yeah.
There you go.
Damn.
Can't get any, you know, maybe if you have a really narrow foot, you know, then maybe you could go with something narrower. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like that's the size.
You're really right.
And I think that
calls. I owe some people some apologies.
But I do think that the Lely is probably the other thing other than the size is probably the most robust mechanical design of a volume pedal.
I've been touring with this same one for like 3 different tours over the last like almost 5 years. I haven't had any volume pedal. I did the Dunlop with the mechanical band, obviously the Ernie Balls with the string, all those. There's a few boutique ones in the middle, you know, I kind of experimented, you know, like we all do in that time of our lives. But like every volume pedal that I tried broke halfway through a tour, by the end of the tour, certainly before the next tour. And this one, like, it's like it might as well be brand new. There's just nothing to break. There's no mechanical parts. Yeah.
No, I think it's a really smart design. I mean, I really love the taper of the Ernie Ball volume pedals, and so I just like I'm so used to them. I like them. I know that they're unreliable.
So unreliable.
But I just have multiple, and I just know that if one goes down, that I got a couple more in the closet.
I get that. And you're also someone who cares and recognizes the tone suck issue they have, and you know how to fix that, and you're aware.
Right. Yeah, I'm always using it in the loop of the Vertex boost. So I never the tone suck element is eliminated. The Lely has a buffer in it, so it doesn't have that same concern. But yeah, so volume pedal. What else are we talking here?
I like the Sonic Research Turbo Tuner.
Sonic Research, man. I tried. I have a funny story about that. I put one on every single NAMM demo board.
And no one knew how to use it.
Nobody, they're like, this tuner's not working.
I know.
They had no idea, and I was like, oh my god. And so we went to Guitar Center, the one in Irvine, and got like a bunch of clip-on like snarks like that night after the first day, because so many people at the demo boards, because I think we had like 6 demo boards or something like that, and nobody knew how to tune the guitar. They didn't get it.
You should have gone to the Guitar Center in Brea. That's the one I used to work at.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. I got fired. I got fired a month into it because I argued with the manager. He tried to tell me, get this, that rosewood on mahogany guitars is the brighter... I'm sorry. Rosewood is the darker, warmer wood, and that mahogany is the brighter, more mid-scooped, clear wood. And I was like, you're absolutely wrong. Like, it's the total opposite. Like Martin's, rosewood, bright, clear. Gibson's, mahogany, dark, warm. And, we exchanged our opinions, and then the next day I got let go. But worth it.
Oh, man.
Worth it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stand for that.
Well, hopefully Martin will give you a free guitar in defense of Tonewoods.
I was like 17.
Right.
We're out of time now. I'm not. Martin's not. They should, the last thing they should do right now is send me a guitar.
So we got the tuner as an important piece.
I know none of these are very exciting, but truly, like these things these are the things I mostly rely on. Overdrive pedals you can swap out based on how you feel. I love the King of Tone. Sometimes I really like an old TS10. I have this JHS Taco Bolt pedal that is a improperly biased Super Bolt.
Uh-huh.
And that was an accident. He sent it to me as like kind of a joke gift, thinking it was a normal Super Bolt inside, and it kind of lived as a paperweight for a while on my desk. That looked cool, like what a nice gift. And then I plugged it in and realized something was wrong. But it sounds so cool. It's because it's like it hasn't left my board since, and it's not that like dead battery sound. It just almost has like a fuzz kind of degenerating thing to it. But stays kind of in the pocket that Overdrive fills in a mix. When you're recording, kind of fits that same and responds like an Overdrive. So that's like a color thing to me. All to say, like that kind of stuff you can swap out. If you're into a new delay pedal, try that out for a few weeks. You're not gonna get kicked out of a session because you did or didn't bring a Line 6 Echo Park. Like, no one really is paying attention to that.
Right.
So the essential stuff to me is the volume pedal, the Strymon Flint, just because to me is a 2-in-1 unit. It's tough to beat that. Line 6 Echo Park is just an all-around delay. You're going to need some kind of modulation, a chorus and vibrato pedal. There's a few different ones that are great. Even the Boss ones are killer. You have to deal with the buffer thing. I know how you feel about that. But just to say...
Well, I mean, you can still use their buffer. I think it's just like you just have to be aware that no Boss pedal just has one buffer. There's at least 2, and sometimes way more than that.
What else? I'm trying to think what else. If you want to get, I really love the Chase Bliss Audio Dark World. I think that's their most approachable pedal, and it's similar to a Strymon setup where it's 2 pedals in one, and on one half it's a very traditional set of reverbs. And the ones on the other half are really more character-driven and kind of lots of personality and vibe, but they're really musical and really easy to dial in. And I use those a lot in sessions, so that pedal's been really valuable to me.
Yeah. Yeah, he makes... I think that his genius is that he fits so much stuff into a small enclosure. I mean, if you look inside a Chase Bliss pedal...
Work of art.
There's no room for anything. I mean, like any usable space is used.
they've somehow managed to like consistently make pedals that do the thing that I was saying I'm usually afraid of, where there's a lot of features or a lot of things going on or a lot of options, but he's so conscious about layout and he's so conscious about kind of the interactiveness of the pedal with the user that they end up being actually really intuitive. I know a lot of people can be intimidated by the Chase Bliss pedals because of the mini switches on the back, but truly that stuff you can ignore if you want, and just with the 6 knobs that are there, and they're such musical and inspiring pedals, and but really like they might as well be in the MoMA. I mean, really what he's doing is art, like putting all that into a reliable portable box and giving, you know, people like me and you and whoever else buys them like all of these options and all of these sounds.
Yeah,
really
I have a lot of respect for what he's doing. You know, I mean, like, I feel like I'm too much of a simpleton in my guitar pedal usage that I could really utilize the features of his pedals effectively. But I look at it and I'm just like, this is really ingenious and really inventive and creative. Like, I think he's probably making some of the most, like, if there's going to be pedals that sort of define what maybe the best of maybe this generation of guitar or, you know, because I think he's probably around my age. I think, I don't know how old Joel is. Probably
how old is Joel?
Probably in his mid-30s. I don't know how old he is.
No one knows.
But I think he's got to be the high watermark for kind of like, you know, being inventive and definitely like blazing his own trail for that stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody was really doing that, you know.
And so talk about a guy who, you know, before Chase Bliss was a thing, was designing and did design some pretty heavy pedals for another company back in the ZVEX days. Yeah.
He did a lot of. I mean, I know that it's talked about in more depth. I mean, I knew he worked for ZVEX. I didn't know in what capacity. I knew that he had worked on the lo-fi junkie thing.
That's Joel.
Which is a cool pedal, in very unique for the time. But yeah, I mean, he's doing some really creative and inventive stuff.
Deep respect.
Yeah. So that brings us to ice cream.
Well, I actually wanted to ask you about patch cables.
Okay, well, let's go to patch cables and then ice cream.
But I do want to talk to you about ice cream as well. So
okay,
you pick the order, but
let's go patch cables. You can have ice cream for dessert.
I know you're not happy about it. I know this is a controversial subject, but I've been using solderless cables on my pedal boards for a very long time.
Okay.
I use one specific brand. I use the old bullet cables that I've had for like 7 years. And I've figured out, after years of doing them, a way that when I put them together, that I've never to this day had one fail. Which isn't to say that they're as good as a soldered cable, because they're, you know, you're right on that front. Like, you know, like there's more, you know, definitely more security in a soldered cable, and it's a more secure connection, and I agree. But I like these cables a lot, and
because you like how they sound, or you like?
I actually do like the way they sound, but I wanted to. That's what I was going to get at. You know that I also like these yellow cables.
Oh, the Canary ones.
Yeah, but
you're using those as instrument cables.
I know that those don't sound that great.
Well, they sound fine. They were. Did you watch our instrument cable shootout?
I did. It stressed me out.
They were in there. It just wasn't yellow, but it was the same cable. It's the GS6, I think. Yeah, GS6.
Let's see. I've got
either
right
GS6
here.
or GS4.
What are you? I'm looking at it. Canary GS6. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were in there, and they did fine. They weren't the ones that the guy chose.
Yeah.
But again, that could go back to our gas station sushi conversation. You know, like he maybe likes. I mean, let me put it this way. I think that the cable sonically that's going to make the most difference. I mean, I don't think this is a fact. the cable that's going to make the most difference sonically is the one that goes from the guitar into the pedal board. Because once you start turning on and off pedals, you're in a low impedance environment, and the games change.
Yeah, it's a jungle.
So the cables on the pedal board, in terms of their capacitance, if you have a high quality buffer and all that stuff, the differences between cable A and cable Z are going to be fairly nullified. But that first one is being driven by passive pickups, unless you got EMGs and a preamp, which I know you love. But pending having that, that first cable is going to be the one that has the most impact on the tone of any of the cables, because the guitar pickups are the only things driving that, and the guitar pickups are really high impedance. And if you choose cables that maybe have more capacitance, that's typically what guys were choosing. Not just when I did that test with Justin Derrico, but when I just sent the stems to people, and I can send them to you too if you want, and I'll just letter them so that you and see if you notice any difference. But everybody that I've sent it to has almost always picked higher capacitance instrument cables, and I think it's interesting. Wow. Because what they like is the resonant peak of the pickups being shifted down from having all this capacitance after them, and so they kind of like what it does and how that affects the sound of the distorted sound with a higher gain amp and a clean sound, and with humbucking pickups in Strat single coil pickups. Those were the top two highest capacitance cables. Were almost always the ones that people chose.
Wild. That's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
There was a thick cable that was made by some small company that was really intriguing to me. It sounded like
the colossal one was the one that he picked, along with the Belden 8412. But almost nobody else that I sent the thing to, or the recordings to, picked that one.
Interesting.
So I think he had a certain, but I think his actually was probably less objective because he could see all the cables.
Oh, whoa.
So he knew what he was playing. And for the black cables, they all kind of look the same. The plugs were the same. But that one had a distinguished difference in look, in that it was gray, it was heavier, yeah. And so it didn't really, look the same as any of the other cables. So it was somewhat distinguishable in that sense.
Man, so interesting.
Yeah. So, not that I think that those are bad cables. I actually think that they're really good. And I have some. I got some separately after we did it, because I like to have different examples of all the kind of common cables so that I can kind of use them as reference points. But I think that the Canary is really fine. I think the Mogami is really fine. For the money, they're kind of like, you can't beat that. You can get the Canary GS6 for like under $1 a foot.
Yeah.
And they make a pedal board version of it that's the GS4. That's the thinner diameter version.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you might like it if you wired your whole pedal board with Canary everything.
I would love to do that. But the only reason why I stuck with the yellow cable, I had these cables that were made by a company called Solid Cable before.
Right.
That sounded unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept losing them, and they weren't cheap. And the Canary is cheap, but the main thing about the Canary is it's fucking yellow.
Yeah.
So when you're done with the gig on stage and everyone's packing up a bunch of stuff and cables are being thrown into cases, no one's going to pick up a yellow cable and go, oh, this is maybe mine.
Right.
Everyone's like, that's definitely not mine. Whose yellow cable is this? And I've never lost one. The whole Jackson Browne tour, I still have all my cables because they're all yellow. So that's...
Well, the only thing I'd say about yellow cables, because I have...
and of course the yellow makes them sound better.
I have some red, but I do find that the non-black cables, they get really dirty. They look awful. They look awful after you've used them a few times.
I mean, you can't see where you are, and our viewers at home, and we're going to table whether or not they are viewers, but can't see this either.
It kind of has like the hue of like dog vomit.
It's definitely old spaghetti. This is not fresh spaghetti.
Like from a fresh choice buffet.
Yeah. Look, I'm just saying, I've always wanted to have a pedal board. When we do the big board, I've always thought it would look so cool to do yellow cable, the same, even the thick, just standard size Canary patch cables, just would look, I would love that. But after watching the video, I'm now like paranoid about which cables sound good.
Well, again, I think it comes down to the buffer thing. If the buffer's in there, then the cable's sort of irrelevant.
Gotcha.
You know, and so if you wanted something that sort of sonically resembles the Canary, then I just say use the GS4. You know, and it's essentially a small diameter version of what you're already using.
Can I ask you you're on top of the pedal game as much as anybody. What are like 5 or 3 pedals that I should know about now?
Yeah.
That, like, you know, someone who's building rigs all the time, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really building that many. That's the thing. I just build them to feed the content schedule.
All for the content.
Well, I mean, and I don't like,
Understood.
it's like secret menu. It's like if you know about the animal style fries, you know, then you know about it. But it's
the
like
fries are too heavy. Just do the burger. You don't want to do that to yourself.
But you know what I mean? It's like there's no place on our website that you could go and, like, you know,
sure,
hire a pedal.
But you've built a decent number of rigs, and you're on top of the game. Is there something?
Yeah, well, I have to say, for me, like, I'm more about like rediscovering stuff that's already been out for a while. Like, I figure that, like, the market will sort of self-correct for new pedals that come out. And like, and like, ultimately, like, if something's really excellent, it'll withstand the test of time. And I can even see that in our own product. You know, like, that there's stuff that we come out with, it's just like, it just doesn't really connect. It just doesn't really connect with the community at large, and it doesn't, and they don't withstand the test of time. And we can see the numbers of those products, they dwindle over time. And there's other products like our Boost. It's like that product always sold well. I never ever had a problem selling.
I mean, that's the best Boost, like the best modern Boost pedal made, hands down.
Yeah, and it just always killed it. It just always did great. Steel String, same thing, always killed it. Never ever had a problem selling. People automatically connected with it. They knew what they wanted to do, and it did the thing. You know, and the subsequent versions of it, you know, equally did great. Then there's some that are kind of in the middle, like the Ultraphonics. I think was kind of maybe somewhere in there. Like it's always stayed steady. Maybe it wasn't our biggest seller, but it was like in the top 3. And then there's some pedals like the T-Drive that people just hated. Nobody liked it.
Really? They
hated
it?
Yeah, they hated it. I mean, like, yeah, it was the worst selling pedal I ever made.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I had ordered 1,000 when I first made it, and I think I just sold 800 recently, and it's been out for 4 years.
I think the train wreck thing is just more elusive to people.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody. I think they don't know about it.
Exactly.
But when I was coming up, that and Dumble were like equal.
That's what I'm saying. Somehow, through all of this, when you say Vox to someone, they know in their mind what that sounds like. And then when you say a Fender amp, they know in their mind what that sounds like. And you can do that with Marshall and all that. And somehow Dumble has managed to end up in a sonic space in people's minds. And I'm sure the hype that's around them has contributed to the lure or the, you know. But like you said, when it mattered, Dumbles and Trainwrecks were both doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the boutique. I mean, they were like the first ones, and the Trainwrecks aren't like Dumbles, but they aren't like anything else. They should be. All I'm trying to say is they should be in the echelon of like a sound that everybody knows, and it should be leaned on. But they just don't seem. They haven't seemed to pick up the same.
They didn't. And there's not that many people that are making boutique replicas of them. Like, there's tons of companies that have made their amplifier company based on that sound, on a Dumble sound. And the only company that I really know of that's made Trainwreck style amps is Dr. Z. It's one guy. You know, I mean, I think Fuchs had like one model at one time, but it didn't at all resemble a Trainwreck or anything like that. But like Dr. Z is like kind of the only guy I know that made a Trainwreck clone.
There was that. What are those amps Knopfler was using for a while?
Oh, yeah. Comet.
Yeah, it was the Comet.
They were doing it, and they had like a licensing agreement or something like that for a while.
Something like that
with them. Yeah, but I would say that they didn't have the staying power of a 2-Rock or something like that.
No, but they're beautiful. I would kill for.
No, they're great amps, and they made a pedal that was based on kind of that sound, and it was also really excellent. You know, because I made a video that was like called "The Worst Pedal Ever Made," and it talked about it. And
I did see that, but I forgot that it was the train wreck pedal.
Yeah, but Comet made a version that was actually pretty good. I actually think that Analog Scotty of was it Pro Analog? Pro Analog Scotty. I think he designed that.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't know what he's up to, but I don't think Pro Analog. Yeah, Pro Analog kind of came back for a while, and I don't know what happened to Scotty.
Yeah, I used their one of their new boost pedals, the VTB boost on the Jackson Browne tour, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotty's another guy. Lots of respect for. He's a legend.
Yeah.
Those early Pro Analog fuzzes are some of the best.
I love his pedal Morpheus thing he was doing.
Dude,
did you see that?
I hope he comes around again. I really like Scotty.
He would do he'd wear the Lawrence Fishburne glasses and the trench coat from the Matrix.
Oh, I didn't see it. Did I miss
out? You know this image though that I'm talking about?
Maybe.
Yeah, so Lawrence Fishburne. I know that people aren't going to be able to see this, but I feel like it's important to show this to you visually.
Yeah, would you mind?
Yeah, so he referred to himself as the pedal Morpheus. And I'm trying to find a photo of him in this. It's really it's really important that you see this.
I'm ready.
Man, I'm trying to remember where I saw this photo because it's not coming up in a Google search. So maybe this is more underground
deep
than I
web,
thought.
Deep dark web.
I can't remember what Scotty's last name was.
I can't either. I feel bad about that.
Is it Myth? I don't know what is. Anyway, I can't find the photo. It's Pedal Morpheus.
Bill, if you find it, send it to me. If you find it, please post it on the Vertex.
Yeah, it's Scott. Yeah, no, it's Scotty Smith.
It?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Scotty Smith, of course. God, that's embarrassing.
So Pedal Morpheus, Scotty Smith. I don't see though the photo. It was so great. Oh, God. Wait, hold on. I think I might have got it. I need his Pedal Morpheus. All right, hold on. Okay, here it is. All right, I got it for us.
Is it coming?
Yeah, this is just one of them, but there's another one. There's another one that's even cooler than this. So here's the first one.
Oh my God.
And he's wearing he's got the full Lawrence Fishburne glasses and the soul patch. And then there's another one where he's it's like a full on
Oh my God.
There's another
there we go,
one.
the Strident. That's the
Strident.
boost
Is that
I
the
used.
one that you took? Yeah, there's one, Blues Breaker. There was one where it was his full there's the Professional.
Damn, dude. He really
there
committed.
it is. There it is. That's it right there.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
Pedal Morpheus. It's great.
Red blue pill with the Manticore and the Centaur.
Yeah, the Centaur, yeah.
What's your favorite clone? How about that question? I'm curious what your favorite clone is.
I mean, I think a lot of people do it great. I think the Rocket one is totally fine. I think that the Mythos one is totally fine. I mean, I think that people attribute too much to the special germanium diode thing. Differences that they're hearing there are really related to leakages. They're not anything inherent about it. So, I think the Centaur one sounds good if you really want one that looks the part. I think it's totally acceptable. I mean, but for most people, everything else is just the methadone, to the real thing. Do you still have yours?
No, I sold it.
Yeah.
I don't regret it, but sometimes I regret it just because, partially because the value's gone up even since I sold mine.
Yeah, how long ago did you sell yours?
About a year and a half ago.
And how much did you get for it?
I think a little over $3,000.
And then how much are they going for now?
More.
Really?
At least because it was a first edition, like the long tail.
Yeah, I vaguely remember. I remember seeing it on your board before. I don't remember if I asked you about it.
It was awesome. It was special. I did it. I remember being on tour in a hotel room, and front of house guy went into my hotel room with me, and we sat there and compared all these different clones that I for some reason had with me on tour, because that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah, which one did you think got the closest?
There really was almost an airiness to the original that remained apparent amongst all the clones. But the tumness that Wampler makes, I really like. And it's tiny, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, the J-Rocket audio one seems to be the... that was before the Centura and all that, so...
Yeah, I think it's certainly the most practical in terms of... I guess the tumness... Although the tumness is going to be bigger or as big as the Rocket once you put jacks in it.
Yeah, true.
Because you have to increase the plane, of the left and right, the horizontal, and then also the depth, because the DC is on the back. So you have to extend the depth, which now makes it about the same depth as the Rocket, and the width with jacks on it, which now makes it the same width as the Rocket. So I think it's space savings wise an optical illusion. They're all about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't remember what question you had asked me that I was answering.
Oh, we were just talking about pedals, like always.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If there are any cool pedals. So many people use that, the H9.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I missing out?
It's great if you have an effects loop, I think. I don't think it's so good in front of an amp. It can have some noise issues. And then the other thing, which isn't like a huge deal for most people, but for like a wet-dry context, which a lot of people who like Eventide stuff might use it for, it doesn't have an analog dry, so you have to use a mixer with it, to get in the mixer has to provide the dry for it. Otherwise, you get some really strange sort of latency with it. But that's typically not an issue for people that are running just like standard serial pedal boards. But I think it can be. I think it's a useful tool, undoubtedly. I think Eventide has great products, no doubt. Yeah. But what I was saying is that I kind of let the market self-correct. For stuff that has staying power and that ends up being kind of like a standard. Like those are kind of the pedals that as a fan of using pedals functionally, I kind of let the market kind of sort out the riffraff.
Totally.
And then I'll kind of look for stuff that maybe is hung out for a while. So I don't really have like on my personal boards, I have some newer stuff, but I also have a lot of like stuff that I think is functional. Like I have an old TS10 on my board, and I like that pedal a lot. I use it a lot for Tube Screamer stuff. I have a J Rocket Archer on there that I think is really good. It's stood the test of time. I have one of my boosts on there. I have an Ultraphonics, which to me is like a really great, like to me it's the closest that I could get. Maybe a better man who knows Dumbles more intimately or has been in front of more Dumbles may feel like they can do a better job. It's as good as I can do.
It's as good as you can do so far.
As good as I can do so far. Yeah, well actually I do have nobody can see this on the video, but I do have a small MK2 version that's like a half size version of the Ultraphonics. Fun. So and I improved a couple of things in it that were just like things that people said that they didn't like or that could be improved. And it's not so much about the tone, it was more like if you use single coil pickups, it wouldn't trigger the overdrive as much because there wasn't enough output. So I put an input gain control so you could kind of level match, a higher output pickup if you wanted with a lower output pickup. So you'd get the same amount of saturation that you wanted out of it. And so, stuff like that is kind of what I go for. I don't usually like, I try not to, there's too many boys who cried tone, like the new thing's out and it's like, you got to get it, and I understand the attraction for that. And at the same time, I rely on that to run my business. like I rely on a certain amount of people wanting to try the newest, latest, and greatest stuff. But and so you should still buy pedals if you're listening to this. Buy new pedals. But but also temper your expectations to like see like how things actually like, are people really using this thing? Is it sort of just like a revolving pedal on people's pedal boards?
That's a good point.
And that kind of helps solidify whether this is something that really has staying power and really has use, or if it's something that's kind of a flash in the pan to use an old miner's analogy. I guess it's not an analogy, it's saying.
Who knows?
Yeah. So that's where we are. That's where I am with the pedals. But I think that this is a perfect segue into the best ice cream.
Well, where are you currently at with that?
Well, I have to say, leading up to COVID, and in COVID in particular, I was living pretty high on the hog.
Totally. Living the dream.
And so, I've had to curtail some of my ice cream indulgences, but
understood.
I would still say top three ice creams.
Okay. Yeah.
That I would say that are out there, and this is looking at stores. I think that I'm sort of torn. I think that Salt and Straw has some really great flavors still.
100% agreed. Great flavors.
I think that they do some creative stuff. And so I really like them. I also really like Ample Hill.
Man, yeah.
But I would say that their flavors tend to kind of break as really maybe less, I'm trying to think of how I would describe them. I would say that they kind of go for really over the top, super sweet on sweet on sweet. And so you have to be in the mood. Conceptual sweetness. Yeah, you have to be in the mood for kind of doubling down on that. Whereas I would say that at Salt and Straw, you'll find interesting combinations of herb and sweet,
subtle,
and so there'll be sort of these mixes. I don't feel like I can say Jenny's anymore.
Whoa, hot take.
And the reason why is that I feel like they have a problem. If you get it there, I think it's good. But if you get it anywhere else where it's packaged, they have some transportation sort of storage issues where I've never been able to get a pint of their ice cream that wasn't fully crystallized. And I've tried 4 different Whole Foods and different boutique shops. And I've written Jenny's and I said, I know that your ice cream is better than this because I've had it, and I've had it from your scoop shop. And as somebody that owns a business, I would want to know this if my product wasn't traveling well. And they said, oh, well, there's a certain alcohol in it they gave me a reason. And they were always very accountable, and I didn't even ask for anything. I was just telling them, sort of as a courtesy. And they offered me, these gift certificates and stuff like that, which is really kind. Although ironically, Whole Foods wouldn't honor them. It's really funny.
Perfect.
They're we don't honor that. You have to take it to a Jenny's store. And I was like, well, I guess next time I'm in LA. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think that if you get Jenny's at the scoop shop, fantastic. If you get it from a store, it doesn't travel as well.
So if we were going to narrow down based on strictly going to the storefront, would Jenny's be number one?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of I feel like there's one that I'm leaving out.
Think hard.
Well, is this, and this can be anywhere, or is this specifically in LA?
No, anywhere. But in person.
There's a place here in the Bay Area called Humphrey Slocum that is also very good. I think they have one excellent flavor, which is a smoked chocolate sea salt.
Respect. That sounds great.
It's very simple. And there's another one here that I think actually now they have a few in LA called Smitten, and they use liquid nitrogen to mix the ice cream, so it sort of is made instantaneously in front of you. And I know it sounds gimmicky, like astronaut ice cream, but I would say that the mouthfeel and kind of the butteriness of their ice cream is unparalleled.
Really?
Yeah. I've taken several people there that are from out of town, and every time they come back, they always request that we go there.
I'll count that as my invitation, and I accept.
Yeah, we have a nice guest room for you. Zeke, however, sometimes will invade the guest room, so you just have to be aware that you might have a dog. Well, I mean, I think he thinks that that's like his room.
What's Zeke weigh these days?
He's like 48 pounds. A heavy 48.
Yeah. Shoot.
But I think it's a queen bed in there, so there should be enough room for the two of you. He kind of sleep. Yeah.
Fuck it. I'll fight your dog.
Yeah, fight him. So yeah, I think that's probably the best one. I'm gonna say the best one in the Bay Area is Smitten, and I think the chocolate is the best. I think in LA the best one. I still think it's got to go to Salt and Straw.
Really?
I think so. I think Jenny's is slightly behind it. Although I have mad respect for Jenny herself. She's a pretty tenacious businesswoman.
See, I'm gonna say the opposite as far as between Salt and Straw and Jenny's, and I will use the example that is. Well, I'll say this: my evidence being that one day Sylvie Demers from Red Panda came to LA. Her sister was in town with her, and the three of us went to Larchmont in LA, a street that is important to mention because on Larchmont there's both a Jenny's ice cream and across the street there is a Salt and Straw. So,
almost opposite ends though of Larchmont.
What's that?
Almost on opposite ends of Larchmont.
You got to walk, but that's okay because what we need that walk because we went and we picked 2 single scoops to get.
Right.
I picked vanilla and probably chocolate because I like to keep things fundamental in said
right.
Experiments.
Right, you got to. It's like the margarita pizza of ice. You got to be able to do that right.
So we each got a single scoop from Salt and Straw, and then we went to Jenny's, and we got the same flavors from Jenny's.
Okay.
And based on my research beforehand, I was expecting Salt and Straw to win with flavors, but people do say that the texture at Jenny's, the consistency of the ice cream, they're really on that, and they really give a shit about that. And I have to give Jenny's first place because side by side, it's like an umami burger versus like another high quality burger where umami's gonna win if you're really into just over the top flavor, but another one might win because it's just like such a perfect burger, kind of that vibe where just the whole experience of Jenny's is like it wasn't so much a like loud flavor thing. It was more of just the whole experience of enjoying the ice cream,
right?
The way it melts and like you said, the mouth feel.
Yeah.
Just fucking.
I think you're gonna dig Smitten then.
I believe you.
So when you have a couple day break, you can come up here. We'll build the pedal board, and I'll tell my wife I'm gonna go off the bandwagon.
I'm gonna fight your dog. I'm gonna throw a wild card in there. Fossilman's in Alhambra. Have you been to Fossilman's?
No, I have not.
Dude.
I haven't even heard of them. Where are they?
Fossilman's has been there for like I think over 50 years.
Okay, where is it though?
In Alhambra.
Oh, well, that's probably why I don't know about it.
Yeah, kind of near El Sereno.
Yeah.
Been there a million years. It's an old ice cream like soda shop.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been there.
Oh, dude, me and Mike Cornwall. He's my guitar
you guys
tech
go.
in town.
That's a long way to go for ice cream.
No. Not if you're in Highland Park. It's like because you're gonna go to Tops Junior first and get a pastrami sandwich.
Okay.
And that's an old school hole in the wall pastrami spot. So you're already doing good there. And then 2 minutes down the street from there, Fossilman's ice cream.
Right.
You get yourself a hot fudge. When's the last time you sincerely ordered like a banana split?
Whew.
You know what I mean?
I've definitely done a hot fudge sundae more recently because there was a place that closed during COVID, unfortunately, that was doing them. That was pretty good. But I can't say a banana split. It's got to be 20 years probably.
That's what I'm saying. Walking into Falseman's is the place that you go and you forget about the Cold Stones and they're wrapping cereal into your shit and they're putting bacon over here and there's like, you know,
Right.
the salts and the like. Just forget all of that. Let's just go back to the fundamentals. An old school hot fudge sundae, a root beer float, dude. Do you realize how good a root beer float is?
Yeah. No,
Gotta respect the fundamentals and Falseman's.
So just Dreyer's ice cream.
Respect.
Milk from a cow.
Or Breyers if you want to be really lo-fi.
Breyers.
Vanilla bean.
Is that what they're using?
No, no. Fossilman's, they make the ice cream.
They make the ice cream.
They make it there. That's what I'm saying, dude.
Thrifty ice cream. Are you below that?
No, we can't be. No one is below thrifty ice cream. I don't want to hang out with anybody.
You're gonna low high that?
50. It comes out in a cylinder. What more do you need?
Right. Oh, I remember when I was a kid, I used to ride my bike over to Thrifty.
Is it the best ice cream? No. Is it the worst ice cream? Maybe. But what's important is it comes out in a cylinder and you could buy it when you're buying Band-Aids. And that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, it was always kind of near the checkout area of any Thrifty or pharmacy. I guess Thrifty is a pharmacy. Yeah, good memories there. Yeah, where the pistachio ice cream is like Chernobyl green.
Yeah. Oh man, their birthday cake flavors suck so much. I love it.
Yeah. Remember the days like bubblegum ice cream? I remember thinking that was so cool, but the idea of just ingesting bubblegum in general, even though that of course it's not what it is, but the idea that you would just want to like eat bubblegum, I don't know, to me sounds so much less appetizing now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat foods flavored like. Another one that's bizarre to me is fruit flavored candy. Are you kidding me? So much candy is fruit flavored. Why are we making candy that tastes like healthy shit? I want candy. Like, have we talked about that? It's like, dude, it tastes just like a grape. You know what else tastes just like a grape? The shit that we're intentionally not eating right now because we wanted candy.
Right.
Grapes taste like grapes. Bananas taste like bananas. What? Man, that's how you know something's wrong.
Right.
Fruit flavored candy. When they stop letting you ride in the back of pickup trucks. When they stop letting you take shit for free from the dump. And when Sizzler changed their slogan from all you can eat to all you care to eat. That's when you knew.
That's when you knew, huh? I didn't realize that Sizzler changed. I mean, what's Sizzler going to do now, man? Buffets? I don't even want to think
about it.
Were you a fan of their work?
As a kid, you can go up to that ice cream machine and get as much ice cream as you want.
Right.
Soft serve.
Right. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, they didn't have a Sizzler where I lived, so I never really got to go all in.
But you're still a nice guy.
Right. Yeah, it turned out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I think we went like 360 degrees here. We talked about pedals. We talked about food. I think that anybody who wants to sort of cross those two genres, they certainly got their cup full. And I also just enjoyed catching up with you and just getting to see what's new and what's on the radar. And I really do sincerely hope that we can entice you to come up to the Bay Area and maybe take a couple days to hang and we'll work on this board and make it amazing and send you home with something cool and make a cool video about it.
Man, I would love that. It's also so great to catch up with you. And it's great to have friends that you can really nerd out with the stuff that you go to bed thinking about, you know?
Well, you probably have a bunch of people that can do this with you.
You would be surprised how many guitar players do not want to talk about gear.
Yeah.
And they're probably right. But you know what? I love it. I love it so much.
They'll never have as good a tone as you.
One more honorable... Can we do an honorable mention on the way out?
Let's do an honorable mention. Stoops honorable mention.
A pedal. This should have been the first pedal I brought up. Pedal that I have truly been excited about since the start of quarantine, and I can't wait to use it on tour, is that 29 pedals, the Una.
Okay.
I can't. That thing's magic. You flip the harmonic switch on. It's crazy what that does. It's tough to. What would you classify it as? Because it's not fully a buffer. It does.
Yeah, I mean, David Ryan Harris had one, and we used it on his rig as the input buffer. And I think it's more of like a boosted EQ. I mean, like, because technically, if it's a buffer, it doesn't do anything. Like, the definition is that it has no EQ, it has no color, it has no sound. And I think this is kind of like it has like a compensation, so you can add treble or I think mid range. I forget which the
you have three
the toggle.
switches. You have a low end switch, a bright switch, and the harmonics switch. That's it.
so that you can do some stuff. And so I mean, I think his approach is kind of like thinking of it as like kind of like a studio preamp type approach.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you deliberately want to change the sound of the guitar, I think it's great for that. And I don't necessarily even think you need to use it up front. I mean, I think the reason why it's useful up front for some people is that they want to have that loop where it will put pedals before the buffer.
Yeah, that's cool.
Know.
That's cool that it does that. The guy Jesse that designs them, and he is a certifiable genius. He was a studio engineer for a long time. He worked with John Bryan. He told me he'd actually originally kind of came up with the circuit for this to compensate for a Gaiatone guitar that John Bryan used a lot in the studio. And that's kind of the origins of this pedal. But I don't really use the effects loop, but having it as an input buffer has been really cool. But mostly that the EQ is so subtle on it, and it doesn't, to me, change the sound of my guitar. It enhances like what's there. Especially, like I said, I'll keep talking about the harmonic switch, but it's like lifting a blanket off your amp. And I've heard things do it similarly before, but you kind of hear the pedal more than your rig. And this, to me, it's like I don't hear the 29 at all. I just only hear, like, it's just like HD version of my guitar, but it still records well. It doesn't spike any frequencies for me. It's just been like an all around. I have it on basically all of the time now, and that's been. For recording, like it's saved me in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let people know that I really love that pedal, and Jesse is a genius, and I encourage people to check it out.
Nice.
That's it.
Cool. Well, on that note, Mason, I appreciate you as always for being you and bringing your amazing expressive guitar playing to the world. And it was good to connect with you, and sincerely I hope we were able to make this board a reality for you. And as you know, you start to, well, I suppose you're always doing sessions, so I think the board could go to use right away, but certainly certainly this is a cool thing, and I think you can make the time to get up here. It would be fun.
We're gonna do it.
All right. So that was Mason Stoops. What an incredible guitar player. We got out there for sure. We talked about the food scene in LA. We talked about our favorite ice creams. We talked about all sorts of crazy stuff. I think we even got to gas station sushi at one point. And if you've made it this far, I appreciate that you listened to it, and I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you were able to pull maybe some cool pieces of gear out of this, or some approaches that Mason talked about during his interview here in his course of being a pro guitar player in LA. Again, I invite you to subscribe if you haven't already, and just subscribing to this podcast is going to keep you up to date with all the new stuff. We're trying to release something every single week, every Monday, and of course you can stay up to date by following us as well on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. A lot of the same content will be either notified in those particular places or might even be posted in those particular places. I think we repost every single podcast to YouTube as well for people that are following us there, so that they can enjoy the same great content. I want to give some shout outs to everybody behind the scenes: Hunter Harrison for editing and mixing the podcast, Mason Mejia for co-producing. It's a lot of Masons this week, and Tim Marco for creating all the music for the podcast. Until next time, I'm Mason Marangella, the Rig Doctor. Until next time, adios.